Hello everybody, welcome to Film and Video Visual Effects with Fusion, week 2, working with Fusion Studio for compositing. Last week we had a really great first session looking at green screen production and compositing work in Fusion, how it's built in Resolve. This week we're going to look at the standalone Fusion Studio specific software, and we'll get a good comparison of what the differences are and how it all works. So it's fun. It's a really kind of niche specific thing, but as we get into this, I think we'll get a good sense of a lot of applications. Last week we looked at green screen compositing, bringing people in. So if you shot something on location somewhere or you purchase stock footage, then being able to bring in people in a studio that are shot in front of a green screen. And green screens can even be placed outside. And I think that's something that I wanted to mention that we didn't talk about so much last week, is that if you're filming green screen work with actors, you can put a green screen up outside. You can use sunlight as your natural light. So you don't even need a lot of expensive equipment. You can have bright sunlight lighting the background. Your green screen is up. All you need to do is fill enough of the background to be around your subjects, and voila, you have a green screen that you can composite out and separate. And that's the really fun part. So it's a really quite a simple tool, and I'm hoping that this will continue to demystify it. And again, we're going to continue on the same topics and ideas that we did last week, but we're going to look at how do we navigate within the Fusion Studio standalone software. And this is something we're going to continue looking on over the next several months, actually, in this project, the Creator Space. So again, thanks for joining us, and let's get right into this. So today we're going to look at the introduction to Fusion Studio software. So what does that mean, the actual Fusion Studio software? I'm going to go back and just look at Resolve and just kind of remind us of what it is so that we can have a fresh look at that. Then we'll go into the Fusion Studio software. I'm going to do an overview of the user interface that is within the Fusion Studio standalone software. Node-based workflow, and I'm going to look at some of the examples of how that works. And green screen compositing, we're going to do some of the same stuff we did last week, but in the standalone. Then we're going to look at adding some text and adding effects. So unlike in Resolve, where you go to the Fusion tab and you do specific visual effects, in the Fusion Studio, you're looking at it, it's more like After Effects. So I like to always compare it to Adobe After Effects, where you're doing everything in the whole tool set. So you're adding text, you can do 3D text, you can do 3D settings, and it's a very, very amazing piece of software. And whatever your imagination can come up with, you could do in it. The main thing is that's the case, but what you need to do is figure out how to do it. And the learning process it's a bit slow, I would say, in the beginning, but once you've mastered some of the basic concepts that we'll go over today, anything is possible. And then it just starts to become second nature. So, it's a great piece of software. I'm still learning it. I, am more trained in the After Effects world. And, when I jumped over to this software, it starts to make a lot of sense. And I can see the possibilities are there. And it's very easy to use. And most importantly, as I will look at and show you guys today, is the green screen work that you can do in Resolve is, again, super, super easy. So that's a great way to look at it. So again, the Blackmagic Fusion Studio, so it's part of the Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve Studio license. So if you go and purchase the Studio license, you also get the Fusion Studio. So you have both pieces of software with that same license. Now it's also built into the Workspace tab in Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve free, which is what we were using last week. The great news is the Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve Studio and Fusion Studio are both loaded on all our partner library iMac computer stations. So we have digital arts workstations set up in all the libraries, 2 in each library, and they are all fully loaded with DaVinci Resolve Studio, full license, and Fusion Studio. So what I'm showing you today, don't worry, this would be a piece of software you'd have to purchase, but you can access it at no charge and just by booking system time at our partner libraries. So who are our partner libraries? Let's go back, and I just want to thank all our partners in this project: Canada Council for the Arts, and we have our library partners: Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, and the Wasaga Beach Public Library. So that's our group of library partners that that are able to host our computer stations and have them at the libraries. So what is the Fusion user interface? So today, this is what we'll look at is in the studio. We're going to look at load in and save out. And that's basically the input and output. So we had like a media in, media out previously, and now we're doing a load in and a save out. So it's a little bit different. Then we can add tools. So those are the tools, add the different types of effect that are, that get added to the media in question. They can be in front of or in between a node. And that's what we'll look at today is like that, how things can be in front, they can also be in between. Playback is real time when we play things back in Fusion Studio, but some things that are more complex, the computer, based on your memory, your GPU, and all this kind of stuff, your hard drive speeds, you might need to render to see the full effect as it goes. Then we have monitor tabs, and this is really the difference because in Resolve, you get to see everything right away. In Fusion Studio standalone, you have to click on the monitor tabs to actually turn on what you're doing and see them. So you're routing, you're viewing, you're routing your effects, and that's kind of the main thing to wrap our heads around when we go through this. Then we have nodes have the different routing. So it determines what's the foreground, which is green, and what's the background, which is yellow. So you got to think about layering in. So background, foreground, right? So your background's there. What you put on top will block it. But if it's transparent, what you can see around that foreground will still, the foreground will be on top of the background. And that's how we can do compositing. So there's our background, right? And we have our foreground with the green screen. The green is removed, and then that foreground goes on the background. And that's really the cool thing with the routing our nodes and figuring out what is the foreground, what is the background. Then we also have effects, and the effects in, those are in the blue tab, or there's arrows. So we route it all, and it's like a big diagram. And think of these nodes as a visual map of how your effects work. So once you start thinking in that manner, it's really easy to route everything and understand that. Any of you who've taken our Blender workshop with Leon, the multiple sessions, you will already be familiar with this nodes idea. And the nodes it's like a big routing, it's like an electrical circuit. I think that's a good way to explain it. Where does it go? So it goes from point A to point B. In between, this is what happens. Think of it as capacitors or resistors, and then it leads to the next point. Then maybe something else is happening. There's more power is injected, and it outputs to a light bulb, right? So after all the electrical circuit, the light bulb's kind of your final render. So if you think of the nodes in that way, it starts to get a little bit easier to think of it. So here's like the nodes, what they look like. This is a little sequence of something that I worked on. Now this is just from Resolve, the built-in Fusion in Resolve. You got media in, media out, and then there's media in 1, media in 3, and this is the whole idea. You'd be loading, so you have like your load in, you have your save out. So that's the same idea, the in, the out. And that's always how all this stuff works. That's with audio, video, input, output. It's a constant thing. But you have to just determine what's going on where. So you can see media 1, there's a polygon effect that's going into the effects in to media 1. So I'm choosing to polygon around it. Then it's going to a transform. So media 1 is being transformed in between. Then it's going as foreground. It goes to the green in the merge. And then I'm merging media 3 and I'm defocusing it as it goes. And the defocus is going to the background. And then the entire merge is going to the media out. And that's it. That's our chain of circuitry in this node world, right? And it's quite, when you start to look at this visually, it's really nice to be able to work this way and move things around. And these little nodes can work around. And it's the same in Blender. It's the same in doing color grading. So in the Resolve software, color grading nodes will work in this manner as well. You're figuring out what goes where, what order, foreground, background effects. That's the main chain of command. So let's start demoing some of this. So what I'm going to do is let's just go to. I just wanted to do a little refresher on what we did last week. So it's going to take a sec here. Just get our hard drive to load up. Okay. Okay, so I'm just in the regular Resolve software, and just my hard drive fell asleep here, so we're gonna give it 1 sec here. Okay, so this is, working with a green screen with a television. So what do we do here? We did this one. This was a nice one. We had the people on the beach, right? And how do we do this? We had Fusion. We go to the Fusion tab, and let's open that up. So we did the Ultra keyer, right? So we said Media 1, Key. We got rid of the green screen. And then in the edit, we have this background here, right? So we're working with the layers in Resolve. And I think it's a great way to start when you're doing this kind of work in Resolve, to just work on it as video layers. And I find that it's way more user intuitive. So it's a great way to start and kind of start to wrap our heads around how does that work, what does it do, and how can it work, right? So here we did this bit of a plate demo. We were able to put this water instead of the river. This was the original shot with like this river, and we put like a oceanic type water, and we were able to do this kind of a plate compositing. So really nice stuff. And then here we just did some stuff with our green screen, and we looked at what's the difference between things in focus and out of focus. But same thing, going into Fusion, just using our Ultra keyer, getting rid of the green, and finishing up the compositing. And because we're doing this in Resolve, we're able to then do our foreground layers in the actual sequence, right? So this is going to be the big difference. In Fusion Studio, we no longer have the sequences to work with. So let's jump right into that. So I'm just going to quit out of here. I don't want both running at the same time, so I'm just going to save that. But I don't want both running. The reason being is it's going to take up a lot of the computer resources to run two graphics or video pieces of software. So I'm going to open up Fusion Studio. This is what it looks like. Fusion Studio 17 is the current version that we are using, and that's what's loaded on all the library computers. And let's get this started. Okay. And it's going to say there's usually these OFX, some of these from the Boris Continuum effects for our 360 work. There's some of these won't load. But don't worry about those errors. So those that will pop up. So I have the same kind of setup here as the library systems. Now you see it's all just gray. And this is similar to like, Blender. You kind of get these, everything's gray. What do I do? But when you start to look at this, there's two monitors. And then we have, inspector, we have keyframes, and this is very much like Resolve. So if you're used to already editing in DaVinci Resolve, same idea. You can inspect your elements and then you can go from there. So here, we have our loader, we have our saver. So I'm just going to zoom in here. So the loader is where we load our media in, and the saver is where it's going to, where it's going to render to, right? So to start any kind of project, I'm going to hit loader. So again, here's window 1, window 2, and you can't really see the differences right now so much, but what I'm going to do is let's do a loader. Okay, and let's look at kind of the same ideas. We have the, let's just pull up the same ocean waters with a green screen in the background. So let's open that up, right? So I'm going to load that. So I'm going to say open. Open that up. Okay, and now I don't see anything, right? So this is where the first kind of stumbling block. Okay, where can I see stuff? So now I can choose monitor 1, left view, right view, or I have a deck link I can output to like an external monitor. So I'm going to just put it right here. And now I can see it. If I don't click these down here, left view or right view, I can't see anything. And that's always kind of the first element that gets a little bit tricky. How do we deal with that? Okay, so then what I can do is I can right click, I can add tool, and I can do a matte and redo the Ultra keyer. So there we go. Now we have a tool, right? So we can go there, and I can put this keyer as our effects tool, and I'll click on this, and now under inspector it gives me all of the tool options. So here's just our file itself, and there's the file name, and we can look at what's the format of it and so on. right? So this is our file right here, inspector, right? And then when I go to the effect, we get the effect settings. So same idea like what we did last week. I'm going to choose that green. I'm going to go click on it and go like that and get the put it up on our, sorry, it's not routed right here. So we're going to go like this. Okay, and what we're going to do is put it in here. And there we go. So load it in, and then it's going to just go here to the effect, Ultra key here, and we've keyed it out, right? So that's step one. So we got our green screen out, and we have that element there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go, okay, let's have a save out. And I'm going to say, where do I want this? So now what I want to do is put it in somewhere. I'm going to go Fusion output, and it's going to say green screen demo, save, and that's it. So now I got my output. Okay, so we got our in, we got this Ultra keyer, we got rid of the green, and we got our out. Okay, so now what I want to do is let's put the background like we did last time. So I'm going to do another loader. I'm going to load into loader 2. Okay, and we're going to do raft going down the river. I'm going to open that one up. Again, now we don't see it. So I'm going to put it there. So now we can see it on the left, we can see it on the right. And this is now where the fun part is that we can really start to think about the elements, right? So that we can see, you know, kind of a preview on the left, preview on the right. And it's a little bit different than video editing, right? So this is the visual effects world of Fusion Studio. Okay, so from there, now I can say, okay, well, how do we want to do this? So I want to merge these two. So I'm going to, right here in the middle, I'm going to right click, add a tool, composite, I'm going to do a merge, right? So here's our, this is our background, right? And then this is our, so what I want to do is I'm going to switch this merge to make that the foreground, right? And then this guy, I'm going to make yellow and make it our background. And voila, we have our foreground, background, and I'm just making sure I turn that monitor on. Right, so I can either do the output here or I can do it right here on the merge and turn it on there. Right, if I don't have any of these on, I won't see anything. So that's our composite there. This is our window here. And again, what are these things? I'm just going to zoom in on them. You can really see them here. So we got left view, right view, and we have this view here. And actually, I'll go right up here. So left view, right view, and our third monitor output. Okay, and so this is how we're able to composite. So just like what we did last time, and now I can play it back. Okay, and what I can do here is I can do a add tool. Let's go to transform. Let's do regular, like transform like this, and let's make it, see, like it was a bit zoomed in, so I'm just going to do a little bit of a transform like that, just to make it a bit smaller, right? So we're able to zoom in. That's it. So we've done our same composite as last time. So you can see it's all in here. So instead of doing it as layers of video, we're able to do it with all these nodes right in here. So again, here's our going to make these windows a little bit smaller. See, so you can really see these nodes right here. So this is exactly what we did, right? So we took the background, put the Ultra keyer to get rid of the green screen. Then we did a merge. So we brought in our raft. That's going to be our background. We transformed it to zoom it out a bit so it's not too zoomed in. Then we merged them. But here's the routing is important. We merged this to be the background. We merged this to be the foreground. Right? And we can continue merging. We can do multiple mergers, and we can keep adding like merge, merge, merge. And we can keep adding like another merge. So we can take these two items, we can merge, we can put another merge up here. Okay, so now let's look, if I want to add titles, I can do like a text, right? And then I can click to go up here, and I can say green screen. And you can change, how you want it, what it's going to do, and so on. So right now it's there, but I want to merge this together too. So I'm going to do another tool here, Composite Merge, and I'm going to make this the foreground. And now we have everything. So again, you can see I merge. You can keep merging. And that is the beauty of compositing in Fusion. You just merge, 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 and keep adding elements. So I can have multiple layers, merge them all together, and go from there. Let's put our people in. So let's load our people that we had separately before. Couple watching, nope, not green screen friends, meeting on, let's do this one. Friends meeting on the beach. Okay, and let's do another merge, add tool, composite merge. And we're going to make that the foreground. I'm going to put these people on top. Right, and now you can see we have kind of a problem of the file, right? So what it's doing here, right? So what I'm going to do now here is I'm going to do a tool. I'm going to transform. I'm going to first scale this down. And I'm going to also put them down here, let's say. And then within here, I'm going to add another tool. And we're going to do the matte, the ultra keyer, right in between here. Go to the ultra keyer. I'm going to click on the green. Okay, and they're gone. So now this is how, quickly essentially we've been able to do a whole bunch of complicated things, and we can put them in different orders of where we want them. So, our text, our merges, and so on. So look at that. We were able to put water, mountain, title, and the couple hugging in front of this. So it's merges, layers, right? Again, maybe feels kind of complicated in it, but look at the path. So we go, our background is keyed out just so we have the ocean. Then we go to a merge. We are merging our raft background, transforming it to make it a bit smaller so it fits into the screen. It's routed to be our background. So the raft is the background, right? So we're thinking of layers, background. Our foreground is the ocean water. So it's on top of the raft in the forest, right? And we got rid of the green with the ultra keyer. So that way we can see the background, otherwise we wouldn't. And then we added text and we merged that. And we made the combination composite of the water and the forest, or the mountain, as our background, yellow. Foreground, we made our text, so it goes on top of those two. Then we did another merge. We said, okay, those three elements, make those the background. And I wanted to then put this couple hugging meeting. We keyed out the green screen for them. We transformed them to make them smaller. And then we were able to put them as a foreground on top of everything. And that way they're on top of the text. And it looks really cool because now they're on top of the text. So you can imagine how this is already a neat looking, sequence. It could be a title for your film that you're working on. So again, I can go to the text here. I can type in something else. So I can say the river, right? And what's cool is it goes, this is what it's going to look like. So I'm going to play it back. So you can see she's waving. The text is behind us. He comes in here. And we can work on that so that, maybe if he's entering, I'm just going to pause this. So maybe what we can do is we can put them actually, go to the transform. Let's put them on the other side so we don't notice that he's coming into the frame. And we'll kind of put them down here. So they're totally not covering the text, right? This is how fast we can just move it. So look at that. She waves. He comes in, and we have that nice title happening in the background. Okay, so that's what we can do there. And then we get into all this beautiful keyframing here on the side that we can do, just like we did in Resolve in the past. How can we do some keyframes? We can quickly go in here and say, okay, in the beginning, let's, the text can, be smaller. I can have it like coming in so that by the time they hug, it gets really big. So let's look at how something like that would look. Look at that. So we just did a quick 2 keyframes. The river. Okay, and that might be the end of our sequence. Maybe we don't want much more than that. So I can just, instead of it being 1,000 frames, this is where the length of the sequence is, I can say to just make it 350 frames. And that way we kind of finish there. Okay, let's add one more element now while we're at this, because we're having some really good fun here. Let's put another we have the people behind in front. We have the people behind here. Let's do one more merge here. Okay, so that's all great. And what I'll do is let's load in another green screen effect. Let's put in a spaceship here. We seem to have lost a little bit of a mistake happened here. Let's do this again. Okay, we got that back again. It's very lovely. Okay. So here, let me just get this one here. Okay, so there we go. We have this spaceship here. I'm going to put this on top. And within the spaceship, we'll do a couple more things. So you can see how we can start to organize, where this node area is. So I'm going to just have this spaceship over here. You can see it's not composited yet in terms of the keyer. So I'm going to do another tool here. So I'm just right-clicking, add tool. I'm going to do the matte or ultra keyer. And we're going to get rid of that green. There we go. So now we got our spaceship coming in, ultra keyer. And what I'll do is another one here, add tool. I'm going to go to transform. And in the transform, I'm going to make the ship a lot smaller. And we're going to do a little bit of keyframing. Okay, so you can see how this ship is kind of showing up here. So what I want to do is go to the transform here, figure out where our ship is. So it's right up here. And we're going to play with it so that it's, or just transform it so it's right up here. Make it a little bit smaller. Okay, and let's just see, now we'll just have a ship kind of flying in here. The river, we have this spaceship flying at the top here. And what we'll do is we'll actually have it like move across. So we'll start from where it is there. And go to where it is here. Kind of have it move around with us. So this is just a stock piece, so I don't have it like just on its own, but because it's kind of cropped within the image. But you can see how quickly, so we had all these elements, multiple layers. The river, we got a spaceship flying across. And that's it. So again, let's look at how we did this. It's all broken down. So we have our first element right here. We have our ocean water. We put an ultra keyer on it. So we right clicked, we added tool. We have that in as our foreground. Then we put the river raft like we had before in the resolve session. We did a transform, we made it a bit smaller so that it fits in the screen. We merged those two together. So we said, hey, the water is the foreground. The raft is the background. So it's full. There's no green screen or compositing that. Then we added this text that says the river. We keyframed it so that it zooms in from the beginning to frame 300. We made the entire sequence 350 frames by changing it right in here instead of 1,000. And then what we did is we merged the text with this section, but we did one more merge here. So we put a spaceship flying in, green screen composited, transformed so that it goes from the screen left to right. So keyer to transform. That becomes our foreground. So it's on top of the river, on top of the ocean. So it's layered as, foreground. This is layer 2, layer 1, topmost layer, secondmost layer, and the backgroundmost layer. Then we merged them and we said, put all of that as the background, but on the foreground of that, put the text, the river. And then we did another merge and we said, well, that whole group of 4 elements, so the ocean water, raft, spacecraft, and text, make that the background and make the foreground our couple that are meeting up. So we have the couple, loaded that in. We said green screen composite that out. We put them in the bottom right and we merged them to be on the foreground of all of those 4 elements. So it's stacked on top of that. Then we made our monitor the right monitor so we can see all of this composited together. And when we play it back, we get the title coming in, the spaceship flying over, and the couple meeting up and going like that. Perfect. So that works nice. Okay, and then what we can do is we can go to, I should mention here, so we have all the tools that you can find up here as well. So you can click on tools. And then what we can do is we can render this, or we can export it as well. But first what we're going to do is, what I want to do is save as. So I want to actually save this sequence. So I'm going to say the river opening sequence demo. And this saves the whole composition as a .comp. And within the Fusion Fusion folders for saving. So I'm going to save that. Now I see on the top here it says the river opening sequence demo. Right, so that's what we want right there. All right, and then we're all ready to go. And then what we can do here is we can set render range. We can do different settings in there as well. And here what I can do is I can actually do an export, process, auto, normal, right? Go like that. And these are all the little settings. You know, what do I want it to be? Auto. What's the file name? Where do we want it? Create folder during render. Output format. So here is what we decide what it should be. So what I want to do is, in order to be able to play this, you can see there's all these different types of files. So this gets a little more complicated. What do we export it as is a question here. So usually what we just want to do is get some sort of a QuickTime movie. So we're going to say, hey, QuickTime, and just say QuickTime movie and do that. If there's audio, we can deal with audio as well. Format, different compression formats. So here you can do like uncompressed and so on, but we'll just do an H.264. There's some more advanced things for like color space and that kind of things. And that's all fine. And then what we're going to do is go to Render Manager, add comp. Okay. And it's rendering. And these are just the frames going through, 129, 162. We're almost there, 350 frames, so we're 300. And there we go. So we've rendered it out. And from there, okay, and then from here, I'm just gonna get out of here, and we should have it in our Fusion render. Let's see where we are. Fusion output. Here we go. Okay. Let's just see. So this is what it's done is it's rendered this all out as specific frames. So that's frame 0. All the way to this one. And that's it. So we've done a render. So we can then do different, like we can do QuickTime renders. This was just out as a individual frames. So then you can bring those back into like another piece of software and make it all happen. So output format right here, and the file name. Like what kind of file name do we want to do it? Green screen demo. Right, and go like that, save, and then it would be ready to go in that manner. Perfect. So that takes us through. I'm just going to go over here to this render. Start our render here. This is going to do this render. Okay, so now when I just hit the render there, so those are the two options. So I outputted the entire composition as individual frames in like full quality, and you can see what it's doing is it's not cropping anything down to our video, right? So that was that. Then in the actual render mode, here is a final QuickTime. And same idea, and this is really crucial, is that because these elements are of different sizing, it's keeping it so that in editorial we can always decide to use more or less of it, right? But at the end we would just use this box of what our actual composited area is, but it's giving you the additional area that you're using, so the additional water, the additional element. So it's not restricting, it's not kind of cropping it down to a specific size, because we've just said do the full frame, it's called. And that's great, because then I can take this QuickTime and I can put it into Resolve, and I can just crop it out to however I want. But you can see it's filling up as we go, but this is something that can then be played. So those are the two ways. So we do the composition, the export of the composition, or we just do it simply on the render button here. So we'll just go over that one more time here. So hitting in the render button, I chose what kind of file I want, QuickTime movie, and what it should look like. And then alternatively, I did the render manager, and I added the composition, and I rendered it out as frames by selecting the composition. So two ways to get it done, right? So whether you want just the frames, you go to your, you can add it to the render queue like that, or you can just hit the render button directly here. And by choosing QuickTime Movie, it all worked, and we went from there. So frame rates, whether it's 30 frames, 24, we can do that kind of idea, and processing, we can decide that it should be full frames and that kind of idea. Format, again there, settings, what it should look like. Legal, now this is the saturation of what the saturation should be in terms of the colors and stuff. And that's it. So you want to always save as, get a render out, and then you can start working with it. So I'm just going to save again. The river opening sequence demo, render frames or render a QuickTime movie or any kind of format, right? So output format, it can be anything. Figure out what you need, right? So whether it's just TIFFs or individual frames or going back to like a QuickTime movie can be quite useful. So then if I quit out of this, let's have a look at how this would work. So then I go back to something like DaVinci Resolve. So I go back to the regular editing software. I can now bring in the QuickTime movie that I rendered. But you know, having that Fusion power in terms of the node work and the effects. So you can see how we were able to do text compositing, adding in like a spaceship, and you know, pretty straightforward, and then just playing around with the nodes and the layers and thinking of where it goes. So I'm just going to open up our green screen demo, and then we'll be able to import this footage directly. So if I just go here, I'll right click, I'll say import media. I'm going to just go to right here, masterclass, Fusion output, and choose this. And here's our green screen demo. Okay, and then what I can do is, for example, if I wanted to drop that in to the sequence down here, we can then, I can zoom in on this to, you know, to make it, to fill the frame. So you can see all that overlap is fantastic because I can, you know, use it in different ways. And I can decide, you know, where I want people to be. Right, so that, and I'm just repositioning everything. So, but here we go. It's back into our editing sequence. So you can bring in, you know, from Fusion back into here. Yeah, that would be the zone there. The river, spaceship. And now we're back into Resolve, right? So we can do all those layers and add sound and so on. And even within Fusion Studio, you can do some basic color grading. You can access all the things, but you're going to be doing it all as nodes. So, you know, really two ways to do it. You can see in Fusion, we can definitely get into some more complex compositing, and the tools are, it's pretty simple to layer it all in and do those tools. But you know, both modes and methods work, right? So if you want to do some Fusion effects, do it right in Resolve. Why not? It's there and it's already in the free software. If you want to do some more work, and you know, let's say you already have a background a bit in After Effects, or you want to take, you can work in 3D. So you can bring in 3D models. So if you did them in Blender, you can bring that 3D model into Fusion and then work in 3D spaces too. So it's a really, really intense or robust piece of software, Fusion Studio. But it was great just to be able to do these composites like what we did today. So, you know, really, really, you know, great tool. So that's how we would do it. Node based. You know, just think about your layers, right? So the yellow is the background, green is the foreground, and blue is the effects in, right? So green foreground, yellow background, and then blue the effects in. Merge, keep compositing, multiple layers, and just think about what you want to see at the end, right? So if you put something on top, it's going to block what's underneath it. So you got to always think about the kind of hierarchy of what you want people to see for the effects. Visual map, right? Think of that as that circuit board. Okay, so yeah, that's just really want to thank everyone. Thank you for joining us. I know it was just a 2-week shorter session, but just a good intro on film and video, visual effects, and green screen work, compositing. It's a really simple tool. Practice, refine, and you can make some amazing shots, and the possibilities are endless, really. So yeah, there we go. So we did it all. You know, we had five layers within that, right? So we have our ocean, our mountain, text, couple in the foreground, and their spaceship in between the text and the mountain. So that's what we were able to do. So again, thanks for joining us. We have some great post-production sessions coming up in July. So we have an advanced narrative film editing workshop, and we're going to look at some more techniques and in terms of the editing and theory. And then we have a sound editing and mixing workshop happening in July as well. And coming up in August, we haven't posted yet, but in August we're going to have a color management and color grading workshop for working with camera, and from Blackmagic cameras to working with lookup tables, LUTs, and going into Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve. So a lot of post workshops coming up. So I hope that you will join us for the July ones and eventually the August one. I know it seems far away, but it comes up quick. And again, thanks for joining us. You can rewatch this session and last week's session from this link, the digital ticket you're on, and it will be archived. So I hope you can rewatch and enjoy some of the information and get started and try some stuff out. Find some green screen work. You can find a lot of free downloads just online. Try them out, give it a practice, and eventually start shooting your own green screen. It's a ton of fun, and compositing is a really enjoyable practice in putting things together that aren't necessarily naturally there. And putting an ocean into a water, a river basin is kind of a neat thing to be able to do. So thanks again. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you guys in July. Take care.